thought that Michigan would be a better opportunity because of the lower employment costs and the lower cost of water. But after comparing it to DFW, there's a much larger workforce, thus creating a lower risk to open there. In addition to that, the projected amount spent on coconut oil products in the U.S. Is going to be really high in the future years to come, which is going to make the risk to enter the market pretty high, but we think that we will have a competitive advantage through research and development. Meaning the demand would be a high risk, but because of the limited resources, but with our solution, we think that meeting the demand will be a lower risk.
So we realized that there was a significant problem with water. There's increasingly high demand for coconut oil-based shampoos and increasingly low supply of water. So we realized part of our big problem with this business is R&D. And we have to get that fixed with water. And that is how we introduced water recycling in order to produce more shampoo products and in turn bring more profits back into the business.
And then for the solution, we're going to use this machine, the VA-30. It cleans the water, and the amount of gallons it makes is 86,400, approximately 327 cubic meters. And right now in reserve, we only have 125 cubic meters. So this machine alone replaces our water and our needs at an expense of $100,000. And then for the sales forecast, we're going to make our money back by the year 2020, and we're going to do a markup of 135%. We own 35% of the market, and that's why we're doing a markup.
Question?
Yeah.
What about the case study is most difficult for you to overcome?
I think one of the biggest issues were like the class times and finding time to meet. So what we did to kind of counter that was do as much as we can while we were in POP meetings.
To add on to that, a lot of us weren't able to meet at the same time even during POP. So we split our tasks. Part of us handled a lot of the work during POP, and those who couldn't split that for research and doing work outside.
We also use this app called Doodle, and it was good for like comparing different schedules, and it was really helpful. Very easy way to see everyone's schedule.
What's been the most impactful experience when you were working on the case study?
The most impactful experience is like working with like limited time. Limited time was the hardest part to face, but it's also the most interesting because it's like when we incur like these events where like with a lot of trouble and a lot of risk, it's like when we have to like get together and make something happen. That's what we get together.
Also, I would say is like we can use the skills that we learned from the McKinsey case and apply them to real life. For instance, if we wanted to start a business in the DFW area, I mean, we can use whatever we learned and apply that to anything we want to do.
What made you guys decide to build a new factory versus leasing?
So we had noticed that there were low costs of establishing a factory in DFW, but most of our emphasis came from the fact that when we realized our R&D solution, the problem that lied in there, and how we wouldn't even be able to start off a business regardless of where we could have been if we didn't first fix that problem. And so that was our main hope, that R&D problem, because the amount of water that was in the reservoir was significantly going to be not enough and wasted to produce the number of shampoos that we have. And so no profits would have been coming in, and therefore nothing would have been able to meet the overhead of costs that would have then come had we built the factory in the first place, regardless of where it would have been.
What did your team learn from meeting the executives?
To not take their biases too personally, and to try and pinpoint questions based off of their expertise.
To point out, Xavier was one of the people that we interviewed, and he came in full character of the person, and he was rough. And it was at first it forced you to think on your feet, and that was one of the good things, because in a context where you are talking to a board member, somebody that is of the C-level suit, and they ask you something and they're not happy with the way you answer, even if the answer is right, you have to think on your feet to how to approach something like that. And his experience and giving us that made us respond in kind of way.
And how did these consulting and analytical skills, how will you use them to achieve your personal and professional goals?
Well, when coming up with the business plan, because I want to create a business, I want to know market and what market I'm going to. So this one was mainly looking at the resource that we have on hand and looking also at the problems that we have. And one of the main problems we had was the amount of water we needed. So as an entrepreneur, you got to look for problems, and you're going to have to find a way to fix it, even if the problem's unfixable.
So I wanted to eventually go into consulting, and being able to practice interviewing stakeholders is very valuable because you never know what to expect when you're interviewing stakeholders.
And also like being able to learn how to handle different kinds of clients with different kinds of personalities and being able to meet them halfway and like meet their needs. That's a good perk of majoring.
All right.
When you guys are presenting, please speak up a little bit louder so we can catch it on the video. We are recording this.
Caroline's group, hello guys.
Hi, we're here to talk to you guys about why we should expand DFW. We'll be focusing on a few points such as the product, workforce, and the resources, and the other options. Our first topic is the product itself. The coconut has a very large percentage of our sales, and our sales are also expected to see promising growth in the next few years. Our second point would be our workforce. The workforce in the DFW area, Texas in general, has one of the highest of our options, the highest ununionized workers, and would cost us the least amount to hire.
Yeah. So when we looked at it from a perspective of being environmentally conscious is not as good as being environmentally aware. So when we look at places like Michigan, you don't want to build a water-heavy plant dead smack where all of the Flint crisis just went on. You don't want to go to California where there's a lack of water and you want to promote that or in that specific area, because it's not just about the shampoo needing water to be built as a product. It's also people needing water to wash their hair with the product. So when you look in places like California with such a a higher labor cost, and places like Michigan who have a lower workforce, but then neither of those are concerns when we move into DFW. We look at DFW being a more expansive industry, up and booming right now. I mean, we're just closer to Frisco. One of our executive members has ties with football teams, and we can expand because they just had their headquarters over there. So we looked at it from a little bit of a different angle, and we thought, if there's no concerns, why are we concerned with going there?
What about this case was one difficulty that you could overcome, and how did you work through it?
I think staying on track with the main idea is probably the biggest issue, and but luckily we're all got back on track and focused on the main information that we were given.
What's been the most impactful experience of working in the McKinsey?
Being able to analyze and look at different array of knowledge as an engineering major, I look at a lot of different things, different perspectives through business type majors. So it's a very impactful experience because I'm able to see a lot of different perspectives that I'm normally not exposed to.
Alex, you're the only one so far of all of these that's actually mentioned the raw coconut. So how does, I guess it tell me a little bit about how the raw coconuts get to DFW, and like how you thought DFW was a good place for a plant, considering where the raw coconuts come from.
Repeat that question.
You're the one who's brought up the raw coconut that you use to make your oil. How did the thought of, okay, this is my raw ingredient, how did that weigh into deciding DFW is the place to go?
I was just gonna ask, are you asking about the biology of how the coconut is perfect to fit in Texas?
I would say sourcing with
Okay,
the,
yeah.
it's more of a tropical plant, so the railroads in the DFW area are considered efficiently viable option compared to going to California or to Michigan. That'd be a longer rail ride and or flight or freight drive. So Texas is a better location closer to more tropical plants.
So you got to interview executives of the company last week. How did that go? What was the experience with that?
Xavier was me.
It was very interesting going through each person because they each highlighted different things, and like some would avoid questions, and then the other ones they were just like more focused on their a personal kind of thing that went on it with them. And so we just learned like some people would speak up with some of the executives, and some people would just like speak up with others, depending on the executives' personalities that the SDs were portraying. And so that was nice just because it allowed for each one of us to talk and to ask a question, and we came up with good questions that other people wouldn't have thought about. So it was a very collaborative type of session.
Okay, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, did you use time outside of PLP to work on this, and if you did you use that time?
We actually did all of our work in our small group. We thought that was the best way to collaborate. I believe there's a difference between cooperation and collaboration. Collaboration is much more important because you're able to give and receive feedback with your group members. Sometimes not all your group members are there. And I think synchronous communication is much more valuable to accomplishing a goal within a team.
Great. Do you think you can apply consulting or analytical skills when working on a case study to professional or personal goals?
Yes, because one thing that I found like very effective about this whole McKinsey case was a problem tree. Because in class, like when you're in high school, like everyone tells you to like come up with all these options, but you don't really get to apply it to like a situational thing like the McKinsey cases. So like when we like sat down and we were like doing the problem tree, like one person would mention an option that you don't really think about. When you have like different people coming up with all of these like solutions and issues, it's just really cool to like see how we all can come up with a decision. A lot of like teamwork and cooperation with different people's majors and ideals and things like that. It's really
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do one more in here, and then we're gonna move to the other classroom. So Christina's group.
Thomas.
Christina's group?
Yes, sir. I was like, no, it's it. Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
Alright, so a quick introduction. Our client, Fashion Corp, is a products manufacturing and marketing company interested in building a new factory to produce coconut oil shampoo for the purposes of expanding manufacturing. So, with some of the information that our stakeholders have provided to us, our team has set out to decide whether or not it would be a worthy investment for Fashion Corp to build a new factory with a budget of $10 million. So with that being said, my partner Sergio will now go into explaining why the conclusion we've come to is the best course of action for Fashion Corp.
Now, before we talk about the conclusion, we're going to talk a little bit more about the solution. As you can see on the next slide, you can see both positives and negatives of why we chose why we came up with our solution. As you can see, we went ahead and researched and saw that the water in Texas is going to be at a very low cost. At the same time, which is going to be a positive on building the coconut oil there. Building the coconut shampoo there. As you can see on the right side, you can also see that the sales of coconut oil is going to keep on increasing. So we should actually build the plant in DFW. Then in the next slide, you can see that coconut oil takes up 1.5 cubic meters per shampoo, while the other ones take less than 0.20, which is a way smaller drastic change than coconut oil. Now on the right side, you can see that water in North Texas is going to be decreasing at a very rapid rate as time flies by. So because of that, we came up with the conclusion that we will not be moving into Texas. And instead of implementing the money on that, we're going to be using the $10 million into implementing on improving our warehouses and manufacturing plants. We will be establishing a routine checkup on machinery, investing in a Six Sigma program, and improving our machinery quality. With this, we'll be able to increase our productivity and demand and meet the company's demand.
Haven't heard that one before. That was a unique solution for you guys, yeah? So, what in the case study, what was the most difficult challenge for the team to overcome?
I think unlike the last case study we did in the fall, where we had a few weeks to actually meet our group that we'd be working with and get acquainted with them, this one, I think the first week we had to meet each other, aside from a couple of us who were in the same group last time. That was the first day we started the project. So whereas before we had a couple weeks to get to know each other and really figure out how to interact with each other, we were just kind of dropped in day one, and that took a lot of time out. And pretty much it was just a whole different case in that aspect. We're working with people we'd never met before. We had to meet each other, learn how to cooperate while still meeting our goals and staying on time and on task with that project.
Okay, great, thank you.
What's been the most impactful part of working in McKinsey cases?
I think for myself, definitely. Being in PLP, I've never really had the chance until last semester and this semester, going through the McKinsey case study process, really analyzing a market like this and going through a problem-solving process specifically like this and getting to hear, everybody's opinion on how to solve the solution and go into it was a really big thing for me and getting more experience on solving something like this.
So what did your team learn from interviewing executives last week? We heard from some of the groups that it was an interesting year.
It's the importance of asking the right question. That was the thing I really learned. It's just, you can have a lot of ideas, but if you're not asking the right questions, then you're not any closer to a solution.
To add to that, I would say you got to see, I guess, like the different personalities that individuals have, and I think that can be applicable to the real world. So you kind of learn like their styles and the way they interact with you by the questions they ask or what they avoid, and you can learn to adapt and sort of try coping with that style to get what you know. Yeah.
Did your team work outside of your PLP time? Did you effectively use that time?
So outside of the PLP time, Sergio and I met once just to put together the introductory portion of the presentation, and for Sergio
to gather up the information on how we're going to create our presentation, that was probably the most we spent time outside because we wanted to make sure that we understood that we had a 2-minute time span, and we wanted to make sure that we had to sell it to you and make sure that you understood that this was the best way to go with the money. So understanding that in a 2-minute time span, we knew that the presentation had to go point to point and give you the information you needed to make sure you made the right decision with us. Does So I think that was the hardest point of getting that all together and making sure we got that to you was probably the biggest time we took.
So do you think you can apply these consulting or analytical skills in actually accomplishing your personal or professional goals?
I think so. I think absolutely. I think as something that's kind of been, I guess, repeated a few times, coming into this opportunity where we've got multiple majors, people from different colleges, especially this time where we didn't know everybody coming into it, we really had to kind of back up myself. You know, I had to back up a little ways and really hear everybody out. And having to do that, having to sit back and listen to everybody else, really it helps increase your perspective. And I think that's really something that's valuable. It's going to be needed whenever you're put on a team in a corporate environment.
It helps you see all aspects of different people's opinions because, I mean, like we said, I mean, as different majors, we come up with different opinions on how we should use the money and how we should come up with the answer and what we're going to do. Coming from other people, some people will be like, well, yeah, we should actually build the manufacturing plant because coconut oil is going to be, the market for it is going to keep on growing. But we also have to see, will it be an effective market to go into or should we just improve what we have already?
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, we'll try to stay in here. Xavier's group is next. Excellent.
We had to do a little downsizing. He fired him. He fired him. You're not good. I'm fired. They said I can dumb like anyone else.
So after analyzing all of the data that was given, we decided that Fashion Corp should move to the DFW area, and we have a couple of reasons to present to you as well.
One of the main reasons why we think that Fashion Corp should move to the DFW area is because of the fact that DFW area is a very popular area amongst millennials right now, and even the surrounding areas are pretty popular. So not only do you have the Galleria of Dallas, but a couple hours away you have the Galleria of Houston. You have different areas such as Allen and Plano and different things like that. So we think that the location is a very good place to target our target audience and even eventually expand into older generations.
And as far as budget goes, after analyzing everything, we realized that you would be under budget, if not at budget. We say this because at the DFW area, the land is going to be cheaper, as well as paying for the employees. The cost of labor is a little bit cheaper as well. And then being in the middle of the United States, logistics-wise, it'd be a great opportunity. I mean, being in the DFW and it growing, there's going to be train transportation. We're going to be in the middle for flights. 18-wheelers, anything like that, there's great opportunity for that as well.
And with the innovative nature of Fashion Corp, we are positive that we can move forward with not only the coconut oil product, but eventually expand into other products with other materials that are also popular amongst millennials or things that will begin to become popular as we move forward.
So what was most difficult for you when you were working on this case study? What was the biggest challenge?
I'd say the biggest challenge was understanding how to interpret the data and come up with a solution using that data as a team.
What did the data tell you about labor costs? You mentioned labor.
As far as labor goes, just being in the Texas area, I know that you don't have to pay employees as much as if it were to be in California. So that's where we kind of got that information from.
And of course, outside research as well.
Sure. What's been the most impactful part of working on the McKinsey cases?
That would probably have to be, I mean, for me personally, it's just, I believe in learning, everyone learns every day something new. So having everyone of all different walks of life and different majors, different experiences, different backgrounds, it's just really interesting to learn from them, the ways they are, why they are the way they are, why they do things or think things, because they have a different background than you do. So their explanations on that give you a different perspective on everything.
I
I can definitely agree because for me, we're all leaders, and for me, having to step back and kind of learn from everyone else and listen was hard to not be as hands-on because for me, I'm a biology major, so sometimes people are throwing these numbers and information at me, and I'm like, whoa, I have no idea what's going on. And so having to like give the reins to somebody else and then put my input where it is best fit, and not trying to micromanage everything.
Thanks, Susan. Good job.